I can see you being a real dog.
That's down to you. I have no idea what I'm doing.
In my previous video, I somewhat misunderstood Pizzolatto's point about misreading motivations and assuming the worst in others. First of all, this is a much more central theme than I originally had realized. Characters are constantly misreading other people.
You seem like the type that kind of thing matters.
You don't have to do that.
What?
Check and see if I'm judging you. I'm not.
Seems like this suits you better. Running free.
Just trying to do my job right.
So that's my imagination. Seeing you like you can't breathe in here.
Yeah, it's your imagination. Telling yourself stories about me, my motives. I could tell stories. Just stop, all right? You don't want to go home. Don't go home. But don't make it the job. People see your black ass skulking around, you're gonna get yourself shot. Prick. Julie's room. There's a little hole in the wall. Came out back of Will's closet.
A what?
Like a peephole for spying. He was passing notes. Tom Purcell killed himself.
What? How?
Blew his brains out. After Roland and I went at him.
We did that. Drove him to it.
They even misread themselves. I think this is what Pizzolatto was trying to drive at with the parallel between Roland and Tom getting into bar fights when they actually need to seek out a friend.
He started hollering, broke a glass, made some accusations, took a swing at Kenny. I had your card from when you all talked to me.
What's going on, Mr. Purcell?
Doing my bozo the clown act, since everybody thinks I'm so fucking funny. You pray with me.
I want to know if you want us to stop. That's all.
I don't know.
You want me to leave? You want me to stay?
I don't know.
I can see you being a real dog.
In the previous video, I was under the impression that Pizzolatto viewed our nature as that of hunters, but I think it's more complicated than that. I now think that he was trying to say that our nature is both predatory and cooperative. This is suggested when we see Roland make friends with the dog after his bar fight, where previously the hounds were a symbol of hunting. We have both, but culture and media distorts the balance. The big clue is the way that culture, specifically children's stories, is analogized to the lithium given to Julie.
The little one, she thinks she's Isabel's daughter because Isabel's been telling her stories. And I swear, the little one was happy. I thought she was happy. I didn't realize till later what been going on.
That's why she wasn't sure about her own history. She'd been drugged half her life. Told some fucked up fairy tale by this woman.
This seems to say that the disillusionment of adolescence causes a strong reaction that leads us to view things from a predatory perspective, as if to compensate for the overly rosy perspective of naive childhood. My previous video outlined the ways media was put at the center of this season. Much of the season focuses on negative aspects of media and culture through hype and obfuscation, An especially salient illustration of this point is the fact that the conspiracy theory promoting documentary filmmaker is portrayed as a likely sexual mercenary.
I've got the soul of a whore.
But we see in the last few episodes Pizzolatto's illustration of the way media can be used to positive effect. Particularly, media serves as a societal memory, preserving knowledge after the physical death of an individual. This point, that the death of an individual destroys knowledge that they hold, is explicitly mentioned a couple of times here in the last few episodes. First with Dan O'Brien.
While y'all were threatening me and beating me and whatnot, what you're really doing is making sure that the truth of what happened vanishes from the face of the fucking planet.
And later with Harris James.
Now it's all gone. Done. Whatever he knew, gone.
Eventually, Hayes is able to solve the last bits of the crime while reviewing a copy of Amelia's book. In a very literal way, a piece of media serves to jog his memory and assist in his analysis of the case.
And what if that little boy who loved her so much, that little boy whose daddy and later himself took care of the yard at that convent, what if he recognized her?
If you knew time as well as I do, said the Hatter, you wouldn't talk about wasting it.
But these themes were obvious since the beginning of the season. Here in the last few episodes, we are getting into a dark basement of Season 3's themes. Pizzolatto is careful to illustrate how power, and particularly wealth, purchases both privacy and knowledge of others.
Wanted privacy.
This was so difficult to see in the early episodes because there was nothing to see. The wealthiest characters in the story don't make on-screen appearances until the very last episode of the season. It could well have been a matter of their non-involvement, at least up until episode 6. The Hoyt mansion itself is located behind gates in an area not visible from the road. The entire property is blanketed with security cameras, as is also the Hoyt processing plant.
Cameras all around, corporate. Access roads to the plants, everywhere. Video of Harris's car pulling out of the gate, followed a minute later by your cruiser.
Isabel watches the Hoyt employees from a secluded vantage point. Hoyt tracks some of his employees with GPS. The Hoyts are able to hide Julie even from most of the house staff.
Whole part of the house for Miss Isabel? Well, Mr. June, the only one, could go down there.
We can see how the economic elites seclude themselves. On the opposite end of this is the character Woodard, a character on the fringes of the town's society due to ethnic identity and economic disadvantage. His poverty leaves him completely exposed, literally riding around in an open cab tractor. In a pivotal scene, we see Woodard being watched by the leader of the mob of townspeople immediately before being attacked. So here's the darkness in the basement. I think there's an elitist subtext here. One could read it as saying the elites are justified in avoiding public judgment because the public is prone to fits of emotion and rage. That there may be parts of society that elites keep from the public in an analog to the way Hayes keeps secrets from Amelia concerning the murder of Harris James. This certainly seems to fit with the contempt Pizzolatto seems to show for armchair internet criminal investigators as compared to the professional detectives and writers in this season.
It's what people do now.
Maybe the point isn't that we are powerless children relative to elites. Maybe it's that we can judge and have agency if we put the investigative time in, like the main characters do by episode 8. This is a more hopeful spin. Still, it is a little ambiguous what Pizzolatto was going for here.
Yeah. Just do your best and learn to live with ambiguity.
On to the next topic. One less ambiguous politically charged theme is the contrast Pizzolatto makes between male and female characters in the season. In a perfect reversal of the politically correct formula of making all the bad guys in a piece of narrative media white hetero males, all of the bad guys in this narrative were white hetero females. It is a somewhat subtle but clearly intentional reversal of the politically correct trope. Pizzolatto is always careful to include a nuanced double-sided view of the topics that he covers.
World needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door.
In this case, he was providing a counterbalance to the typical criminal procedural fiction where the perpetrators are almost exclusively male. Despite the fact men's sexual predation of women looms large over the story of a runaway girl,
one of the guys had gotten some of the girls to trick.
She get a lot of visitors. Men.
Yeah, you could say that. Those guys came in here, tried to chat her up. Good for business.
here Pizzolatto takes a benign view of men.
I'm a feminist. If they want to sell me a piece of ass, they got the right. Shit. You're gonna pay for it one way or another.
Furthermore, in this season all the male characters are covering up and taking the heat for the actions of females, especially including Harris James, Hoyt, and Julius Watts.
We're both soldiers. You understand triage.
Your man here, he suggested you got taken advantage. Like you too pussy-struck to have known what she was doing.
Told me. You said you figured that if you died, that your mom would be rich because the government would give her $10,000, and that's why you ended up joining.
And I think this is why the season closes with first a shot of Hayes in his moment of marital union, and then a shot of young Hayes walking off into the Vietnamese jungle. This may be the most central theme to the season. The natural predatory urges of men are also natural cooperative urges. The fact that Mike is ultimately Julie's rescuer is an illustration of True Detective's point that natural masculine drives can have a positive influence as well.
He started crying. He said he always thought he'd marry Julie when he grew up.
Well, folks, this is the end of my story. And if anyone should ever ask you, just go on ahead and tell them that I had the St. James